Welcome to this webinar. Obviously, the person that invited you to hear this not only cares about you, from a physical sense, but also from a nutritional standpoint as well. And I have been doing research on oxidative stress, nutrition, and how that plays a significant role in athletic performance at any level. Whether you're kind of a weekend warrior all the way up to the elite athlete. I've been lecturing to athletes on this subject now for several years. And so, I think as athletes, coaches, personal trainers, we're oftentimes, consumed and frankly confused by, the proper amount of carbohydrates and fats and proteins that we need to fuel our bodies for performance. And while that macronutrition is obviously important, what is oftentimes forgotten is the important role that fruits and vegetables play and helping to actually preserve your potential for future gains in physical fitness and athletic performance. And specifically, it's the micronutrition that you get from fruits and vegetables that has been found to be responsible for reducing what is now considered to be a leading cause of chronic disease and aging, and as you'll see, impaired athletic performance, and that's something called oxidative stress. So what I want to do is just point out some areas where oxidative stress plays a role in the athlete. And one of the areas is muscle damage. And there's a process called, or a phenomenon called, delayed onset of muscle soreness, or DOMS. And what that is that you go out and you have a heavy training session, or you've had a race, and the next day you wake up and you don't feel too badly. But as that day progresses, and into the 2 to 3, 4, or 5 days out, you end up starting to have more muscle pain, more muscle soreness. Well, this delayed onset of muscle soreness is believed to be due in part to continued free radical production at the muscle cellular level, even after you've stopped exercising. So you've exercised, but just because you have stopped exercising doesn't mean that free radicals are not being produced, because they continue to be produced again at a muscle cellular level, resulting in part to this delayed onset of muscle pain that many athletes have. And oxidative stress, as it plays a function in damaging our heart muscles, and this was another eye-opening study that was published in 2012, where they found that heavy and sustained exercise training can generate large amounts of free radicals, and those free radicals can actually do damage to heart muscle. And this study was, again, published in 2012, was based on an individual who, or a series of individuals. They found that the ultra marathoners, or people who do, numerous, Ironman competitions, or one, marathon after another continuously, when they do autopsies on these individuals after they have passed away from whatever reason, they're finding patchy scarring on muscle heart tissue, and that patchy scarring can result in electrical conductivity problems in the heart, resulting in sudden cardiac death. So again, you don't feel these kinds of things happening to your body, until something catastrophic happens. That doesn't mean that you can't go out and do, Ironman competitions, but there is, again, there's an excess here, and we're beginning to find out that the excesses can do more harm than good. A lot of exercise, we're finding out, is not healthy for your heart. And again, it's not like you can see this patchy scarring or this damage going on. The whole point is that if you're going to exercise, and we're going to get into this, you need to be protecting yourself, and that's the next subject. So that does lead us into talking about how to neutralize or minimize oxidative damage as it occurs as a function of us exercising. And of course, the most effective way of neutralizing oxidative stress is through antioxidants. And the important thing is to understand that we all come equipped with, we are all born with this complex internal enzyme cascade that acts as a frontline defense system against free radicals as they're produced on a daily basis. But the important thing to understand, and you'll see through the research coming up, is that even though we're born with and we come equipped with this complex antioxidant enzyme cascade, this system can't function by itself. It has to be fortified each and every day, and we fortify this system through our diets, but it's specifically diets that are rich in fruits and vegetables, and specifically the rainbow of colors, the reds, the greens, the purples, the yellows, because inside of those colorful pigments exist these very powerful plant chemicals called phytonutrients. And what I mean by phytonutrients is, it's basically plant-based nutrition. It's thousands and thousands of powerful antioxidant substances found in all of the colorful fruits and vegetables, and this is the key here. It's all of those plant nutrients working together synergistically, the way Mother Nature intended them to be effective in reducing oxidative stress and free radical damage. So again, we're born with this internal enzyme cascade, but that system has to be fortified. And again, you fortify it through your diets. So the question then is, how many fruits and vegetables should we be getting? And based on the most current epidemiological and observation studies, it's recommended that we should be consuming 7 to 13 servings of fruits and vegetables every single day. And again, that's every single day. That's not getting that much in your diet Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Okay, that's 7 days a week. And the traditional way that people have been filling this nutritional gap has been through supplementation, and specifically supplementation with vitamins, minerals, herbs, you name it. And again, there's a plethora of supplements on the market today. It's so very, very confusing. But if you look at the research, it's really quite astounding, because they're finding that study after study after study is showing that athletes that take these synthetic isolated vitamins like vitamin C or vitamin E and or multivitamins, those supplements are actually doing more harm than good. And in fact, this was a huge study published in late 2011, where it was a systematic review of the literature on vitamin supplementation and exercise performance. It was done by a couple of New Zealand researchers. And they looked at over 100 studies, and they narrowed it down to about 30 to 40 well-designed randomized controlled trials. And what they found when they parsed through these thousands of pages of data was, and this was their statement and their conclusion, was that, quote, a growing body of evidence indicates detrimental effects, not just neutral effects, but actual detrimental effects of vitamin supplementation on the health and performance benefits of exercise training. And I know that this sounds so counterintuitive, because just looking at the word vitamin looks like it should be healthy for you. But we're finding that vitamin supplementation is not what we thought it was. For the most part in this country, we do not have vitamin deficiencies anymore. What we really have are whole food deficiencies. And these researchers summed it up at the very last paragraph. This is what they said, looking at all the data, is, quote, a variety of fruits and vegetables remains the best nutritional approach this is the key, to maintain optimal antioxidant status. Again, so you see athletes who are so tied to their vitamin supplements, you really, based on all of the research now, you really have to ask the question, why? And so the bottom line is that, because so many of us do have a nutritional gap, the best way to fill that nutritional gap is through food and through whole raw food. Where you get your vitamins and minerals, but you're getting them in their natural form, not enough synthetic fractionated form, but with the added benefit of all those other phytonutrients and plant nutrients and chemicals that scientists really are still naming and identifying. The key here is everything is working together synergistically. Again, the way Mother Nature intended them to, versus trying to bridge the gap, the nutritional gap, with what I call no food sources, which again are the isolated, fragmented, laboratory-made vitamins, and or multivitamins that simply lack that powerful synergy. And so this is the product I recommend. I've been taking this now for over 8 years. I recommend this product to bridge the nutritional gap because it's food, it's whole raw food, and the product is Juice Plus. And the reason why I really love this product is because of the research that's done on it. It is the most thoroughly researched brand name nutritional product available in the world, bar none. And basically it's 26 different fruits, veggies, berries, and grains that are in capsules. You can think of it like a salad bar in a capsule. They have extracted the water, they've taken the entire fruit and vegetable, ground up, and that includes the skin. There's a lot of health benefits in the skin itself, and they've ground it up and taken the water and the fiber and sugar bind together, and they've dehydrated it, put them in capsules. And so basically, a lot of people think it's a vitamin. It's far from a vitamin. You're getting food. You're getting whole raw food. You're getting your vitamins and minerals, again, but in their natural form, the way our bodies recognize them. From apples and oranges and beets and cranberries and parsley, all those good things are condensed into capsules, and it's very, very powerful. So there are numerous studies that are done on Juice Plus and exercise-induced oxidative stress. So how do we neutralize the oxidative stress that occurs when we exercise? So what I want to do is just finish up by going through one of the studies that I think had a huge impact on me as a physician and an athlete. In this particular study, they found that Juice Plus helped to reduce permanent oxidation or damage to proteins during intense exercise, and this is the key, allowing the body to adapt to the benefits of exercise without long-term damage to proteins. And this was a gold standard study, which is randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled study. It appeared in and was published in My Sports Medicine Journal, which is the official journal of the American College of Sports Medicine. Okay, it's called Medicine and Science in Sports and Exercise. That's a top journal in the world. And so what I want to do is just break this study down because it's pretty complex, but it is very impactful when you hear the results. Two groups that they subdivided them into. One group that took Juice Plus, the JPC capsules, and then another group that took the dummy pill or the placebo. And what they did is, this was a 28-week study, and the researchers exercised these athletes 4 different times during this 28-week study. They exercised them at baseline before they even started supplementation. Then they exercised them at 4 weeks after supplementation began, and then again at 16 weeks, and then again in a final 28-week period. And at each of those exercise sessions, the researchers drew blood on these athletes. They drew blood before they exercised, immediately after they exercised, then at 30 minutes after the exercise session was done, and then again at 30 hours after the exercise session. And what the researchers wanted to know is, hey, what kind of protein damage, what kind of protein oxidation is occurring in these athletes' bodies as a function of them exercising at each of these exercise sessions? And so I'm going to show you a couple of bar graphs. And the first bar graph on the left is what happened at baseline before these athletes even started supplementation. Again, there were two groups, the placebo group depicted in the red bar and the Juice Plus group depicted in the green bars. I want to fast forward you to the final 28-week period, and you're going to see quite a radical departure from that baseline period. So this is significant because what they found was that the athletes that were not taking Juice Plus had a significant elevation, as you can see, a significant elevation in damaged or oxidized proteins inside of their bodies. And that's compared to the Juice Plus group that had no elevation of these oxidized or damaged proteins. But what I think is really significant is take a look at the amount of protein damage in oxidized proteins that are already circulating around in their bodies compared to what it was at baseline. You can see that there was this gradual accumulation of these oxidized or damaged proteins. And what this shows, and this is significant, is that, again, we talked about how we're all born with this enzyme cascade that acts as a frontline defense system against free radicals. Well, as you can see, if you're not putting micronutrients, specifically from fruits and vegetables, and in this study from Juice Plus, if you're not putting micronutrients into that system, as you will see over a period of time, that system, that innate system we have, begins to fail because there was an accumulation of these oxidized proteins in these athletes' bodies that were not taking Juice Plus. But that's compared to individuals who are taking Juice Plus. And if you do put micronutrients into that system we're born with, as you can see, it functions quite properly. There is not an accumulation of these oxidized proteins. And the reason all that's important is because study after study after study in the last several years, they're now making the link between this accumulation of these oxidized proteins to overtraining and overreaching syndromes in athletes. So you see athletes, and this, again, this could be little Johnny going off to soccer, all the way up to the elite professional athlete that start off a season healthy. But as that season progresses, they start to get more and more sore, more and more tired, more and more sick, more and more injured. Well, they have now made this link to this accumulation of these oxidized protein. They've now made that link to these particular issues that athletes are having. Again, we're talking about trying to sustain your athletic ability day in, day out, year after year after year. And I had a personal experience with this. This is a picture of me finishing at the Ironman World Championships in Kona. And prior to this, the year before I did this, I did Ironman Florida, and I had a miserable race. I was basically fatigued and tired going into the race itself, which of course now I understand was because I had all this accumulation of these oxidized proteins inside my body from all the training I was doing trying to prepare for the race. Subsequently, I had a horrible race. Was so sore I couldn't walk for 2 or 3 days after the race, and for about 3, 4, 5 weeks after the race, I was constantly sick with one cough, one cold, one upper respiratory infection. Basically, my body was trashed, and I hate to admit it, but at that time, I was taking 8 vitamin, mineral, and herbal supplements. Obviously, it wasn't doing anything for me. Certainly now, based on the research I know today, we're probably doing more harm than good. But I started taking Juice Plus before I started training and racing for, or before I started training and preparing for Ironman Hawaii. And I was already eating a good diet. I was already eating a diet that was rich in fruits and vegetables. And I really had a hard time thinking that fruits and vegetables and capsules was going to be beneficial to me. But I trained really hard for this race, and I was putting 6 to 8 hours a day training, and I knew my body very, very well. And not right away, but about 2 to 3 months into taking Juice Plus, I did notice some subtle, kind of anecdotal, testimonial things that were happening to my physiology. In all my years of training and racing, I'd never noticed before as a collegiate swimmer and triathlete. I was having a lot less muscle and joint pain. I was recovering a lot quicker between my training and racing sessions. And the other thing I noticed is I wasn't getting sick. I wasn't getting the coughs or the colds. And it was very interesting that all my training partners who were not taking Juice Plus, and they were still struggling with all those things. So, I knew there was something going on, and that's to my physiology, and that's when I decided to look at the research on it. And again, at that time, 2 of the studies on Juice Plus were published in my sports medicine journal, which is, one of the most renowned sports journals in the world. That was it for me. The light bulb went on. It's never gone out. And I think that this really cinched it as well, too, is that Juice Plus was the official nutritional support for the entire Austrian, German, and Swiss Olympic teams through the 2012 London Games. That they got the research. They understood the benefits to their athletes, which is why they had all of their athletes, their coaches, their personal trainers all taking Juice Plus, because they knew of the health benefits that it would afford to them.